What is up? Welcome into yet another edition of Benstant Reaction, a spinoff of the Ben Garcia show where we talk all things breaking news, whether it's in the sports world or maybe there's a game that just ended or there's a big trade, whatever there is going on in the breaking news sports world, we are reacting to it here on Benstant Reaction. It is the morning after the Baltimore Ravens defeat the Cincinnati Bengals 35-34. There's a few thoughts I have on this game, really a tale of two quarterbacks. And I guess I'll just start right there. Lamar Jackson at this point in the season, there might not be a weakness to his game. Oftentimes people will say, oh, listen, he's not a good thrower over the football. Yeah, that's not true. He has become one of the better throwers in the football this season. Over his last 5 games, he has a 75% completion percentage and has a passer rating of 134 with 15 touchdowns and 1 interception. Some way, somehow, Lamar Jackson has gotten better off of not his first, but his second MVP. And it doesn't matter who it is. Outside of Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson is that dude. And it is so funny for people who hold the standard to Lamar Jackson of, well, he can't beat Patrick Mahomes. Yeah, who can over the last 4 years? Tom Brady? The best quarterback of all time? That's what we're holding Lamar Jackson to? Tom Brady? Lamar Jackson has done everything right since he came to the league. And you can't say many more good things about the guy. But over his last 5 games, 75% completion percentage basically, 1,400 yards passing, 5 touchdowns, 1 interception, and that doesn't even include some of his rushing stats over the past few games. And at this point, is the front runner to win MVP. And on the season, 2,600 passing yards, 24 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and a 77 QBR. What is Lamar Jackson's weakness? Because I know there's guys on the couch that think they really understand football and the ins and outs of football. Well, he can't throw. Well, over his last 5 games, he has a 75% completion percentage. Lamar Jackson has elevated himself into that tier of elite quarterbacks. Now, instead of just saying, well, it's Patrick Mahomes, it's Joe Burrow, it's Josh Allen, and then Lamar Jackson's in the second tier, no. It's no longer the case, and it hasn't been the case for some time now. Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes, that is now the standard in the NFL. When you talk about elite quarterbacks, Lamar Jackson is up there. And he's starting to make a case to be the second best quarterback in the NFL. Now, as many people know, I'm a Josh Allen guy through and through. I still believe Josh Allen is the second best quarterback in the NFL. But if you told me you thought Lamar Jackson was the second best quarterback in the NFL, what is my argument against it? All I'm doing is trusting my eyes with Josh Allen and the fact that he does more with less, but so is Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson, for weeks, for months, for years, has been doing less with more, and now his defense isn't very good. You know, I had said last week that it's go time for Lamar. He's got all the weapons he needs now. Deontay Johnson, Zay Flowers, Isaiah Likely, Mark Andrews, whoever it is. Keaton Mitchell is back. Derrick Henry. He's got all the weapons. Now he needs to step up to the plate. And step up to the plate he has absolutely done for this organization. And it is insane to me that there are people still not on the Lamar Jackson bus. I don't know what it is. He's a running back. Okay. You don't know basketball. I'm sorry. You don't know football then, buddy. You don't know it. If you are still beating the table for, well, he's not a good passer, you don't understand football. Like that's it. That is what it is. Lamar Jackson used to be a marginal passer. Used to be a so-so passer. But because of the guy's work ethic, because of how much he loves the game, because of how much he is dedicated to football, he's become not a more improved passer. He's become one of the best passers in the NFL. Over the last 5 games, as I just mentioned a second ago, he's been on an absolute absolute heater. Not many players have been able to do what he's done over the last 5 games. 75% completion percentage, nearly 1,500 yards passing, 15 touchdowns, 1 interception, and a passer rating of 134. And on the season, 24 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, a 77 QBR, and 2,600 passing yards. And that isn't even talking about his rushing statistics, which are one of the best in the NFL and the best at the quarterback position. If you are still on the Lamar Jackson narrative, well, he's not very good. That's a you issue. That's not a Lamar Jackson issue. And I'm not going to argue with you about it because you don't understand. If you're not willing to change your opinion on Lamar Jackson, that's a you issue. That's not a me issue. And that's certainly not a Lamar Jackson issue. Now, there was a losing team last night. And now I feel like I have to defend Joe Burrow. It's interesting to me the amount of people, or I guess I should say it's interesting to me the amount of people that sold their stock on Joe Burrow because he's now doing his best Josh Allen impersonation, which is doing everything on his own. This is not a Joe Burrow issue. This is the Cincinnati Bengals are a bad franchise issue. They sold off his best running back last year because he got too expensive, because he was washed. Oh, that's right. He's tearing it up with the Texans. They're not going to re-sign T. Higgins in the offseason. And there's a real chance because they're so cheap, they re-sign T. Higgins because he's cheaper and then just let Jamar Chase walk out the door. At this point, Joe Burrow is being paid on the Cincinnati Bengals. Where else is the money going? I would be livid if I was Joe Burrow. I'm putting up 34 points and still losing games. I am being up in the fourth quarter and still losing games because my defense can't stop a nosebleed and because ownership will not keep the key players around. Who's getting paid? Who is getting paid on the Cincinnati Bengals? They let Jesse Bates walk. They let Joe Mixon walk. And they're going to let one of the 2 following players walk in T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. And they're going to try to get a bargain on both. Yeah, I know Joe Burrow makes a lot of money. He doesn't make all of the money. And the fact that they're not supporting him, that's what poverty organizations do. That's what cheap organizations do. And now it's turned to people turning on Joe Burrow because he's not winning every single game now. The difference between Joe Burrow and other quarterbacks who have a lot of weapons like Brock Purdy is Joe Burrow is still doing it and putting up high numbers without those players. T. Higgins hasn't played for multiple games this year. He hasn't had Joe Mixon. He hasn't had Tyler Boyd. It's Jamar Chase and a whole lot of nothing else. And Joe Burrow is making it work. And he is holding up his end of the bargain. And the Cincinnati Bengals are not holding up their end of the bargain. We still don't know if Zach Taylor is an elite level head coach. We think he's good. He made it to a Super Bowl. But at this point, it's just not fair to Joe Burrow. He is asked to carry an organization that has been cheap his entire life and put them on their back with subpar weapons outside of Jamar Chase. Remember, T. Higgins has been injured. He's played like 4 games this year. There's no Joe Mixon. And he's still putting up the statistics. This is not a Joe Burrow issue. Joe Burrow has been pretty awesome this year. 2,600 yards, 24 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, 74 QBR. That is good for 3rd in the NFL. And in his last 5 games, 12 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 101 passer rating with a 65% completion percentage. Stop blaming Joe Burrow for them losing games. It ain't Joe Burrow. It's this organization that still has an issue with trying to lift up its players. And it is ridiculous at this point that Joe Burrow is receiving any blame. Where's the money going? Joe Burrow's getting paid. Who else is getting paid? Who? Jamar Chase is not getting paid. T. Higgins is on the franchise tag. Who is getting paid on the defense? This organization is failing to support Joe Burrow. He is becoming a life preserver for them Meaning sink or swim, Joe. Take all these players that probably wouldn't start on other teams and take us to the playoffs. It is actually a miracle at this point that the games are this close and that the Joe Burrow-led Cincinnati Bengals are only 4-6 at this point. Because it is incredibly unfair to him. And it is incredibly unfair to the rest of to Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, that this ownership group, that this general manager is not just forking over the cash to pay their franchise quarterback. So many teams would love to be in the position the Cincinnati Bengals are in. Have a top 5 quarterback on their team and weapons around him that all they have to do is pay. They don't even have to go get them. And they won't do it. Surround him with decent enough talent. Make the defense at least marginal. Allow them to get a couple of stops in a game. They don't do that either. They let Jesse Bates walk. This is what poverty organizations do. This is what poor organizations do. And it's taken no exception to bringing Joe Burrow along down with them.